Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists. It's human nature to want to know what sits behind the closed doors of a shed or a barn. We're about to see one private collection on this week's Classic Restos. The Americarna event in the North Island of New Zealand has morphed itself into a now world-class event. The man responsible is John Ray, and now it is time to get up close and personal with the man himself and his private collection.
I guess my passion for motor vehicles, I started as a young kid. We were building trolleys and riding down the hill and then obviously watching a lot of vehicles cruising around, particularly when you start to get a little older and you get to go to the movies and you see Bullet and Vanishing Point and the such like, and you just dream of what it'd be like to have a car that you could smoke the tyres up. And so, we started off, didn't have a lot of money. I think the first project we wanted to build was a sea cab. And we got 2/3 of the way through that program, and my late father said to me, I want that piece of crap out of my shed. We want our shed back. So at 17 we sold that, and then a little later we got a 67 Falcon and plonked a V8 in that. Had a little bit of fun with that, but it was sort of a poor man's way of trying to get a Mustang or a Camaro or such like. And then obviously marriage comes along and the first house and children. Actually, prior to the children, I bought a Falcon GT Shaker. Paid $6,500 for it. Red, manual. Man, that was a cool car. I had a lot of fun in that car. It wasn't unusual for me to go through a set of tyres on the weekend on the rear. In fact, a set of tyres in the night. Got a little bit of trouble with that car, but God, I had a lot of fun. So we sold it for $6,000, 9 months later we have a deposit for our first house. And that's probably one of the things I've regretted selling, was that Falcon GT Shaker. It was not because of what the value of the car would be now, it's just such a cool car. And then some years later we got into motor racing, and they reckon if you want to be a millionaire in motorsport, start when you've got 3 or 4 and get out when you've got 1 left. We didn't have any millions, so it was work your butt off and enjoy your racing. So we started in Speedway in a class called Dirt Modifieds. And we moved into sprint cars. And then I always said when sprint car racing is no more fun, we'll get out of racing. And then a friend of mine asked me to take his Monaro circuit car to a hill climb. And I thought that was pretty cool. Which I hadn't, because then all of a sudden we had another 10, 12 years of circuit racing, and we finally finished up racing a Trans Am C5 Corvette for a number of years. And again, when I said when I'm done racing, I'm selling everything and I want to build a new home, and I want to build a home that I can house all the toys in one place. Typically I had them in sheds, and if you wanted to take one out, you had to go over and move 4 or 5, get one out, and it just became just frustrating. So very fortunate that we're able to build this property where I'm sitting right now. I don't have a big car collection. There's a lot of people in New Zealand that have 30, 40, 50 car collections. I'm not in that league. Don't want to be in that league. The cost of maintaining them becomes horrific, and I want everything that I've got to be drivable and maintained. Typically most of the cars I've got I don't drive. Maybe but once a year at Americarna when friends and family use them. I get a lot of pleasure out of seeing my kids driving cars and taking my staff for rides. The car culture is kind of interesting, really. It's you either like cars or you hate cars. And what an event like Americarna does for car people, it gives them an opportunity not to show their car off, I hate that word, no, you're just showing your car off. I like it. You're sharing your car with people who either can't afford one or are not in a position to own one, have always dreamed about maybe owning one, or just like the atmosphere that most good car shows provide. When we built the property, one of the things I wanted was I wanted a showroom that had all glass front doors on it. Yeah, a little bit more work to muck around to get the cars in and out. You just can't press a button and the doors go up and down. But what I get every day is when I go to work, I can see what I've been working for, and when I come home at night, I can have a look in the shed. It's a nice backdrop. It's a permanent canvas of my passion for what vehicles we own. Even working around the property, you know, there's not a day, half a day I don't go by and just look in the door and go, well, that's pretty cool. Very fortunate to be able to work myself into a position to own these neat vehicles. Some years ago, at age 16, when Jeff Gordon was 16, I brought Jeff down to New Zealand with his stepdad and his mum, and he raced a sprint car in New Zealand, a car actually he owned in the States that we brought off them. In fact, that year we brought 13 sprint cars to New Zealand in various shapes of assembly, and I'd done that deal all through Jeff's stepdad, John Bigford. Jeff produced a book that had a couple of chapters in it on his time in New Zealand, so I was fortunate enough to be included in his book. The thing is, with this collection, another good friend of mine in the States, known for many years, Gary Schroeder, his mother Carmel, lovely, lovely lady. I had the pleasure of meeting her before she passed, but she was a huge collector of NASCAR memorabilia, which started with Jeff Gordon. So Gary had kept a fair amount, when she passed, had kept a fair amount of the IndyCar stuff, because his passion is old Indy cars. His dad built one, and they raced that in Indy. So he said to me he's got to sell or get rid of the rest of the memorabilia of the building it's in. It can no longer be housed. I'd sold it. And I said, what are you going to do with it? He said, well, I want to sell it, but I don't want to get broken up and go on eBay. And so he told me what he was wanting for it. If I knew anyone, I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll buy it. It's pretty special, pretty unique. So he actually gave it to me. And we have a pretty cool display. All the boxes are still kept. So anything that's out of a box, we have the original box. We don't open up. This is nothing special. It's just my own private little hideaway. So Fletch, for you to let me show you this to people, it's kind of like, it's out of respect for you that you're here.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannon's home and contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be
Shannon's.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
How would you like to double your garage space and work on your cars easily? Well, bring in your own hero with a Lift King hoist. Easy to install models in 1, 2 and 4 post styles. Check the very nifty Spider 2500 portable mini scissor lift. Hero hoists are either Oz certified or carry the Euro CE, your guarantee of quality construction and reliability. I regularly stand under my Lift King, so when you need a bit of a lift, why don't you go stand under yours? In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392. Moving through a very exclusive car collection on this episode of Classic Restos. How are you, John?
I'm doing pretty good, Fletch. It's been a huge week, as you know. Feeling a little bit shattered today, but hey, feet are above the ground. That's a good thing.
Just to bring into the picture, whilst here in New Zealand for Americarna, thought we'd do this episode. So Americarna, well, it's just ended. By the time you're watching this episode, that was last weekend. Huge event, record numbers, takes 12 months like every major car show. 12 months to pull it all together for the year. Mate, what an event.
Yeah, it went really well. A little bit of rain on Friday night put a bit of a damper on a few things, but all in all, a phenomenal event. Great attendance.
Now, this 33 behind us here, you know, I don't know what it is with these cars. These cars are growing on me, and they just are. I think it's a certain appreciation that you need to have when you start looking at these 32s, 3s, and 4s. Just one look at this car. Look how good it presents itself.
Well, it's an interesting car, actually. I bought this car out of Pleasanton, California, I think 5 years ago. And the gentleman I brought it off, he owned the car for 50 years. He brought it when he was 18 years of age, and it was a hot rod. I think it had a Buick engine in it, and he said it wasn't very pretty, but 55 years ago now, any hot rod was pretty cool. And so he decided he'd put a Chevy in it and do some work on it, which he did. Kept breaking the gearbox, kept breaking the diff. I mean, they're obviously just old units in their day. And he finished his time and got conscripted into the military to serve in Vietnam. So he parked the car in his grandmother's barn. And then obviously came back from the war, got married, house, children, 30-something years went by, dragged it out and took the body off, and then figured, well, the chassis is no good. And so he just started collecting parts, TCI frame and Kugel independent front end and an E-type rear end, because they're narrow enough to fit in the 33. Sent that away, had it rebuilt and things polished and chromed, and but none of his kids were interested in it, and he felt that, well, it was time to do something with it. He hadn't done the interior, just had a couple of bucket seats screwed to the floor. And I looked at it, you know, it's a 33 three-window all steel. It's a fairly rare car, and given his trade as a locomotive engineer, his detail to every nut and bolt, you know, like there was no excess thread sticking out and everything was timed, you know, the kind of detail I like. I didn't drive it, I just brought it sight on scene.
It's got to be good. It's here, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've sold a few cars over the last couple of 3 months. This one will be here when I'm long gone. This car's not going to get sold.
Nice truck this, John. 56 Chevy Truck, beautifully done.
Well, the interior's stunning. I've had that redone at Gabe's. The truck itself, yeah, they've done a reasonable job for an American restoration. I mean, it's obviously been on a rotisserie and the frame's pretty grouse underneath, but we are changing out the engine for a 427 small block, old school carburetor, nothing in fuel injected in this puppy.
That a boy. Can't knock him for that. Well, tell us about the interior, John.
Right, so Gabe's, I said I want an interior that really suits the truck. I don't want it to be a girly looking thing. It's got to be a bloke's, but it's got to have some class. But yeah, we wanted to choose a trim colour that would suit the orange, and I think this really dark chocolate brown with the orange incent stitching works well. Another couple things I've done here is I've wrapped the dash in leather, quite a difficult thing to do. Done a beautiful job of wrapping the dash, and you'll see with some close-up shots the panel I've made to go under the dash for the AC vents. AC vents and the door handles match, as does the interior light. So yeah, done a pretty good job. Little center console, and down in here we have electric handbrake and the USB port and phone charger, and obviously the buttons for the electric windows.
Now, John, this car, well, I guess it means a lot to me because back in the 2011 event of Americarna, I rode in this car with your wife, Di, all the way down to Invercargill. Now, that was before this current restoration.
Correct. We brought the car out of the States. I found it at a specialist shop, paid someone to go and look at the car, said it was a pretty good car. We got it out here. Typical patches and holes in the floors, so she didn't know I'd brought the car. The one thing my wife's always allowed me to do is whatever I want around my motor racing, and I've always believed you're better off to ask for forgiveness and permission.
He speaks wise words, doesn't he?
So there's a bunch of stuff turns up here some days, and she goes, well, okay, so what am I getting for an apology? Anyway, we gave her the car at my 50th birthday. So we've had the car 13 and a half years. Yep. And I knew it wasn't 100% and it wasn't to the standard I wanted, so we decided we'd pull it off the road and give it a tidy up. But that took 5 years. Putting up Morrison frame in it, smedding 383 and a Tremac 5-speed my wife loves, her Italian gearboxes, Manuel. We did some some changes to the Morrison chassis so we could feed the exhaust pipes out through the frame rails and so forth.
You've done some outstanding things with the car. The bright work in itself is just masterpiece. The two-tone paint is beautiful, the yellow and the white. You've debadged the car. The only way of telling it's actually a Belair is up on the dashboard, over on the glove compartment. Door handles removed. Tell us how that system works.
That's a Kindiggett design door handle, and Dave's sold thousands of sets, but this was the first set he'd sold off the production line. I bought them about 7 years ago, just in case one day. We shipped it to California to Gabe's, and I wanted an interior that was like no one else's. So, you know, we've got a couple of pretty good trimmers in New Zealand, but you see the work they do, and you can tell it was done by who. Yep. So when I first spoke to Gabe's and we paid a visit to them on one of our previous trips, I don't think they believed we were going to send it. Well, we did send it, and they did a phenomenal job. And we were fortunate enough that our timing for it to go into the Grand National Roadster Show coincided with myself being there and the car being finished. So we put it in the show on Gabe's stand, thinking, well, hey, it's an honour to have a car in the Grand National Roadster Show. I think there was 298 cars in that category, and much to my surprise, they placed at number one.
Yeah. I think Chevrolets, particularly these late 50s models, seem to lend themselves to these customised interiors. There's a lot of them that have been done. They look fantastic. The ergonomics inside the cockpit area, they're just a fantastic car to do that to, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Tri-5 Chevys, 55, 6 and 7 is probably one of the most customised cars other than the 32. It's a ladies' car, so we wanted it to look really sharp, clean, elegant, but not OTT. And look, Gabe's just delivered. All the trim and sides actually made out of brass, hand-shaped, and then chromed.
Absolutely amazing. Now, under the hood, what's going on there, JR?
Under the hood's 383 5-speed, but we actually recessed. Well, we made the firewall look like it's been recessed to fit the engine. So with the battery in the trunk, the wiper motor's under the dash, we're able to clean up the firewall really nice. So it now looks like the motor's been punched into the firewall, but it isn't punched into the firewall.
Wheels and brakes, which way'd you go there?
Well, again, I wanted a set of wheels that weren't going to be found on everybody's car, so I spent a fair bit of time researching, found a company in the States, told them what wheels I wanted, what size, what back spacing, and I haven't yet seen another set of wheels on a Tri-5 or even any wheel in the country the same, so I'm really happy about that. We've put a Hydrovac on it, or a Hydro Boost, and it's known by different people. So it's a Woolwood 6-piston calipers on the front and 4-piston on the back with electric handbrake and a couple other bits and bobs.
John, time is up. I just want to say thank you so much. It's over, well, at least a 10-year association that we have now in conjunction with yourself and Americarna. You've allowed me to come here to your private residence today and show you at home just a little of what you've got. Mate, thank you very much.
Thank you, Fletch. Welcome back next year to 2020 Americarna. And I'd like to hope you get to see some of the other car collections that some of our guys have got in New Zealand, because this is just nothing. This is just a scratch.
Oh, you Kiwis do it well, and yeah, I enjoy being here. And I've got to give some credit too, in the past too, to Bryce Barnett, who's local here around New Plymouth as well. Incredible guy, great collection, and John's right, there's some fantastic stuff around here, mate. Take care, see you soon.
Thanks, man. Safe travels.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal. An E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannon's understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk, because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare & Forbes has the range. In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed the private collection of John Ray, the founder of the Americarna event here in New Plymouth, North Island of New Zealand. And speaking of Americarna, it's time now for me to take you back to America to show you one of the most unique German vehicles that you are probably ever likely to see. How cool is this? I happen to have Mark Foster, the CEO of Lyon Air Museum, just outside of Los Angeles. Morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Fletch. How you doing?
Fantastic. Didn't know the place was here. I'm gobsmacked.
Well, we've got to fix that. If you didn't know about it, that means other people don't know about it. We want to make sure everybody knows about it.
This is what it's like in the United States of America. You keep on finding stuff until you get here. You just, honestly, it's never ending. A place like this, right next to an airport. Before we go any further, what's the story here? We can just walk straight out there onto the airstrip almost.
Well, we can. You can't. We have the pass that says we can. But so we're not near an airport. We're on the airport. We're at John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California here. And you'll see right outside the glass doors, that's a taxiway and then a runway. And the airliners you'll hear taking off here, pretty regularly. I'm sure they'll interrupt us at some point.
I can never get tired of that sound. They sound amazing.
Yeah, they really do. And, we've got a great little community here. It's such a great airport, and we're just happy to be a part of it.
Okay, Mark, just quickly, what's going on with the planes in here? Tell us a little bit about this fantastic museum.
Yeah. So we're the greatest generation aviation museum, and we've got, we start pre-World War II, and we go up basically through Vietnam, Air War, and we call that the three wars that encompass the greatest generation. And so we start with a DC-3 that was late 1930s design. It was American Airlines type airplane is one we have in here, which interestingly really was a cargo airplane in World War II, but now it's converted back to American Airlines configuration. And then we go up all the way through like the B-17 of World War II, and we've got a C-47 and a B-25 and A-26, and then we go into the Korean Air War period with a A-26 Invader, and then all the way into the Vietnam Air War period with an O-1 Bird Die, which is a forward air control airplane.
So, Mark, how long has the museum been here? Like, what does this, was this building originally built just for the museum, or was it something first?
It's purpose-built. General William Lyon, who is a local home builder, decided he wanted to make sure that the kids learned about all the great stories of the greatest generation. And so in 2008, we were able to secure a piece of land here at John Wayne Airport and start building the building. We finished that by the end of 2008. 2009, we opened officially, and we've been open ever since. So this is our 10th year.
All right. The pot is simmering for the content in here. There is some amazing things. Behind us, this gives you goosebumps. 1939, the car that belonged to Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, Adolf Hitler was the original owner of this G4 Mercedes, and so he took delivery of it in August of 1939. And if you know your history, September 1st, 1939, Hitler rolls into Poland, invades Poland, and basically starting World War II. So a little bit of a stretch, but we like to tell people, because he took delivery of this car the month before that, and he was driving around planning his invasion, there's a fair chance that World War II started in the front passenger seat of this car. How about that? Oh, that's it's amazing stuff. The vehicle. Tell us about the vehicle, engine, driveline, anything you can about any other history in the time frame that we have. I know it's probably not going to be too easy. Well, I'll keep it real simple, but it's basic. It's got a straight 8-cylinder engine in it. It's 4-wheel drive. The rear 4, it's got 6 wheels, but the rear 4 drive. Even though it looks like it'd be a great off-road vehicle, it really isn't. It's more of a command vehicle or a parade vehicle. I've personally driven it around here a little bit, and it drives like a truck. And so this car captured in France at the end of the war. It was on display in France as Hitler's car for a period of time, went through a different ownership, movie studios, ultimately ended up here in our inventory. And it's pretty interesting because it's pretty much all original. It's only been restored as required. You know, it's not had a full frame off the chassis type restoration or anything, or body off the chassis. But I will say that the tires have been changed. And these tires, for whatever reason, the brand on them, you'll see it says Alliance. And underneath you'll see it says Made in Israel. So you talk about some irony there. So these were put on sometime after Hitler owned it, of course.
Mark, as I stand here, it almost has an aura, this car. There's something about it. And it hasn't been restored. The front seat is torn. I don't know when that was done. But to look at the original leatherwork, and as you said earlier, World War II was planned on the front seat. That's where the guy rode. That's where he sat. It's just a little, it's hard to comprehend.
It really is, yeah. And what it does for us here is, you know, we've seen all the footage of this stuff as we were growing up, and it was mostly in black and white. The films were in black and white. Another airliner landing. And when you walk in and you can see this thing in color, you know, and touch it, it really makes it real. Then you realize that this guy really did exist, and he really did what he did, and it just kind of makes it more real.
Mark, I could stay here all day. Thank you so much for your time this morning and having a chat. This is a great museum, and these guys are easy to find. It's the Lyon Air Museum. What's your address again, Mark?
We're at 19300 Ike Jones Road in Santa Ana, California, and basically just Google us or whatever, look us up as Lyon, and it's Lyon, and we're at John Wayne Airport.
Awesome. Okay, thanks again, Mark.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you've really enjoyed this week's episode of Classic Restos. A little bit of a split there going on, John Ray's private collection, and the opportunity to show you Adolf Hitler's personal car. I just hope that Adolf didn't mind me filming it. Until next week, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists.